All right, Eric Vickery here, All-Star Dental Academy coaching team. I've brought Dr. Gregg Raymond and his lovely wife Karen Raymond on our coaching dynamic duo with All-Star. And I thought, you know what? Today, let's talk about who you guys really are and where you came from as a husband and wife team because I deal with that's not the right word. I coach so many teams where the husband and wife work together. And it could be that the wife is the dentist and the husband is managing the practice and marketing the practice and vice versa. And so from your standpoint, we'll talk about the husband being the doctor and the wife being the manager of the practice, and how did that really go, and how did you guys make that work? We'll spend, I don't know, 20 minutes talking about this, and what I hope that we walk away with is just some great coaching advice for the husband and wife teams that are out there and going through some things that you guys went through. So thank you guys so much for joining me again. I appreciate
Welcome.
it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I love that you guys are coaching offices now, and it's so good to see. And Karen, we were just talking about you going, I love the great call process, and it just is so similar to what we did way back
Yeah.
when. So I know that it's working. No matter how we deliver it, how we do this and coach it, the concept is still the same. Build rapport, build relationship with the clients, and get them scheduled for the appointment. And so I'm so glad that you're loving it and
Yeah,
ready
it
to
is.
coach teams and doing coaching teams and fired up, and having Dr. Raymond on, helping doctors with case acceptance and treatment planning and talking to patients that way and being confident as well. So, but today it's going to be about team. And team was a whole different thing for you guys. Now, I worked for my father-in-law, but I didn't ride home with him, go home with him, and spend the evening talking over dinner about dentistry. And so let's do this. What in the world were you thinking going to work together, and how the heck did you make that work? So tell us some of your story on that.
We're still working on that.
Yeah, we're still practicing.
After all these years.
Okay,
You want to
well,
begin with?
Greg and I met when he was a senior in dental school at the IU School of Dentistry in Indianapolis. And I was at the medical center because I was getting a Bachelor of Science degree in health information management. And that later became, more computerized and technology, but I got a Bachelor of Science in that. So we met in the cafeteria one day, and actually that summer that I was graduating, I was supposed to go work at a hospital in Fort Lauderdale as like director of the medical record administration. And because Greg and I met, and even though we were both dating other people, we had this bond, and I decided to take a position at the IU School of Dentistry over admitting of all new patients, their record system, and working with dentists on redoing their systems. So I worked with the students a lot and learned an unbelievable amount of course, dentistry. I was there for 4 years. Meanwhile, Greg he graduated in 1977. He was starting his practice from scratch, decided to go solo, even though everybody told him he was crazy. And so I was supporting us working at school of dentistry, and his story is another story to tell. But after 4 years of being involved with school dentistry, we had our first son, and we wanted to stay home with him. So I got to stay home with Brian. But meanwhile, I had always been involved in helping Greg set up his practice, from his dental systems to, record keeping, because that was my specialty. Law, everything involving that. So I became very involved in the practice on the weekends, and we only lived a few minutes from the office. Mm-hmm. So it was something I loved doing. Eventually, I did not go back to the school of dentistry. We had 3 sons, and I was able to work part-time and ended up full-time there for a couple of years, just because it was needed.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's so many stories as far as, my favorite thing is, as just telling the personal side of it, going into the office as a wife is very tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you've had employees, staff that have been there for a while, and all of a sudden, Mrs. Raymond comes in, and she's gonna sit there and just sit there and flash her nails and talk on the phone. What in the world is she gonna do? Because we had a friend that his wife went in and fired the whole staff when he was at lunch.
At lunchtime, yeah. He came back and the office was empty of team members. They were all.
Oh my gosh.
That's another story. We got lots of
But that's a whole
stories.
other story.
We'll do that one another time. Wow.
It's good.
What to do when you come back and your team is all
Yes.
fired. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
It really wasn't
yeah,
fun.
starting an office from scratch. So I was really careful, and I just said I wanted them to teach me like I was an employee, learn the systems, and I was a friend to them to begin with, and just on their level.
They
and
loved you being there.
we got along great, and I would even say if Greg's in a bad mood, don't mind him. Get him a Snickers for lunch, and he'll love you.
Yeah, she was. What a support. She was great. And yes, the team members loved Karen, and she learned enough, obviously primarily on the administrative end, that she knew all the systems. She knew everything in that regards. She wasn't. I think maybe once or twice she dental assisted at the chair.
not once I got those dirty looks.
But not often. So she was primarily administrative, and I loved her being there because I could get a second opinion when we brought on new team members. Karen could screen them. She had a good sense of who was going to fit, who wasn't going to fit, how this was going to work, and bring the team together and keep the team together. And so it was a huge benefit. As far as what you mentioned a while ago about bringing work home with you, kind of, we would, yes, we would still speak about work when we got home, but it was never a problem. It wasn't in a derogatory or a negative manner. It was always positive. And what do you want to do next, honey? Let's try this, let's try that. And then brings us to continuing education courses and coaching. And we would talk about, we need some help and assistance. I think we could be better in this area or that area. And so we took a lot of continuing education throughout our career with the team. But Karen and I were always together on that, and saying that, for instance, I'm just going to use your name, Eric, but Eric Vickery. Yes, perfect. Let's get Eric involved and see where we can keep elevating and taking our practice to more to an upper level. So we always would do that, but it was very beneficial. And Karen and I, our relationship personally and business-wise has always been A+. We always are looking out for each other, suggesting things, never criticizing each other. We would, but we were always.
That's actually two really good points you just made, Dr. Raymond. One is, and this is what I typed out, has to be healthy personally before it could be healthy professionally. That's number one. So if you're listening to this and you guys are working together, but things aren't ideal at home, you got to have either counseling or life coaching, performance coaching in that regard. But then number two, here's something that's really important. Karen wasn't going to one of your dental assistants and going, "Oh, I know, right? He's so," she was saying, "Go get him a Snickers bar." That to me says that you have someone on your team. You guys have to be a unified front first, And you can't be a unified front first if at home you're not a unified front, right?
Yeah, oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that better.
It's exactly like in a dental office when your team isn't cohesive. When we had team members that said we didn't have our dream team at that time, you could just feel it, and patients feel it, and they can tell.
Oh, yeah.
So if obviously you're right, as a couple, if you bring any of that into the office, that's a disaster for your patients and team.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk all the time about even just two team members in your office culture not getting along. Patients are picking up on that. That's affecting case acceptance. Imagine if, the husband and wife aren't on the same page and how that affects everything. And it could be simple things, just how maybe you're getting along, but how you talk to each other. I mean, Abby and I have our play talk, like, oh, we make fun of each other, whatever. But you can't do that when you're at work, because then people think, oh, I can get in on that too. Yeah, doctor, and then they, make fun of the doctor. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
And so you have to really separate that. You have different hats that you have to wear when you walk in. And here's a frustration that I see. And share with me if you encountered this and how you dealt with this. Was the non-dental spouse sees, and it could be worked both ways actually. One of the spouses sees a performance issue professionally.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, I was just working with a husband and wife team, and she emailed me and said, this approval addiction thing that you're talking about, is real. His confidence is lacking, and we're seeing a lot of fillings come out. And that's it. How do I go there with them? And so, like you're talking about, having a coach could help. But did you guys ever how did you approach each other to coach each other?
Well, that's a good question.
That's a great question. I think that as we went through, as we took the dental boot camp, we did everything.
Yeah.
Having a coach is exactly a perfect thing for that, because you can bring that up in talks. But let's say you don't have a coach at this time.
Yeah.
Luckily, we were able to approach each other. And we always have, and it became stronger through the master's program that we went through, dental boot camp.
Yeah.
I love that how everything you learn in these courses that we take, how much they apply to your home, and how much I wish I would have learned these when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
This communication skills.
Yeah.
But we would talk to each other, and I say, for example, I would say, as kind as I could, how do you feel about your self-confidence? How I know that when they were in dental school, the way they were beaten down and the way their approval, it was just,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so Greg and I were both pretty open to listening to each other. And I think it's so much the way you bring it up.
Yeah, we're very honest with each other and very open and respectful.
Yeah.
We've been married going on 45 years now, but we've always respected each other and honored each other, loved each other, of course. But I think it's a matter of openness and honesty and respect. And I'm not going to say
perfect.
Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
It hasn't been perfect. But we found ways of working through that, both personally and business-wise in the office. And I don't know, it's worked out well for us, but I think those are so key things: the respect, love, respect, and openness and honesty.
Yeah. That verbal, so that system that you're talking about, two things you said between both of you. One is to be able to get to a place of respect and honesty is the permission statement, right? And Karen, you alluded to that and saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this. Can we talk about this? And the second thing you did was accountability questions through how. That's your leadership questions. How, and you led with that question. How are you doing with that assistant? How did that go with that patient? How can I support you in this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's so cool, because then if the doctor is willing to open about that with the team, and the team understands, there's so many things that the teams don't understand about the doctor, and they they don't know. They automatically, if they come into, especially if it's a thriving, successful practice, they don't know the struggles and how hard and all the things they had to go to. And that's another thing. As a wife, when I first came in, especially after we started doing really well, and Greg, drove a Mercedes. We live in a beautiful home. We're a small town. Everybody knew us. It became very hard for me not to defend Greg when people would make comments. Oh, I see you just bought a new car. Well, I think, and at first I was, oh, he came from a poor family. He put himself through dental school. He put, we paid. And then finally I had to learn, thank you. I think you bought one of those wheels out there, or at least part of it, just learning that your patients want you to be successful. Justify it.
You're not going to go to a dentist driving a jalopy. That's not a good thing.
Is that the dentist you want to go to? Somebody? Yeah, exactly. No, not being defensive, but just kind of going along with it. I think you just learn what to say and what not to say, I guess.
I have to say another thing, that Greg's and my personalities are very different, and we complement each other. Greg's a DI and an SI. And of course that can vary. And when we're playing in our rock band, Gregg was a crazy drummer and I was a crazy singer and piano. 10 years in a rock band. Our patients just couldn't picture, the Gregg they knew, the Dr. Raymond they knew back there playing drums.
Yeah.
So I really saw there were a couple times that he brought that D home. And I felt like I was working at the office sometimes. Because when he was at the office, I didn't question if he asked us to do something or we needed to get something done now.
Right.
I would definitely... Of course, Dr. Raymond, but that was, that was there, but his personality and me being overly sensitive, we had to work on that. We had to talk about it. The other time I can say it was a problem was when we had a fall, when we had lost 4 of our key dream team staff members in our production collection everything fell like 40%, and we were living on credit cards. And I was working full time then, and we brought that home, and it was stressful.
That was very stressful.
It was a time that I almost wished I hadn't worked at the office during that time.
That was 2002, 2001, 2002, somewhere in that area. And we had some rough times right in for a few years, and then got online with coaching with dental boot camp.
You guys, Paula Harris. We went through all the courses. Our team and our office won a cruise.
Paula came in
for the most successful.
She came in. Paula Harris came in maybe 2002, 2003. And then I was,
talking about low self-esteem,
moaning and groaning to her about that. And she looked at me real serious. I'll never forget this. The very first day, as I picked her up from the airport, she said, "Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and I understand. So what are you going to do about it?" So she laid it right back in my lap, and I was like, it was like someone threw a bucket of water over my head, and I was like, "You're right. I've got to take control. I've got to do something about that. I'm trying to do that. I can't bring in a consultant or a coach and expect them to magically wave a wand and everything's going to be fine in my practice. I had to, first of all, realize what was going on, and then she provided me with a lot of tools and suggestions, and just like Eric, and Eric has done the same just a little while later. Eric did the same thing, and it was pulled us out of
and up and up
and
away.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. I mean, I'm just.
And that's why we were able to retire.
That's exactly right.
Well, what's amazing about that is, even though those, and I'll just summarize this, I think for those that are probably connecting with this story is, you may be going through that hard time right now.
Yeah.
That may be where you're at right now. But you guys and all of us have been through a hard time. And I think it's what we take out of those challenges that teach us something about ourselves, about how to help others, and how you guys can now coach others through those same sorts of things. I think that's what I think people will admire you for, and say, oh, wow, so it wasn't just easy for you all the time. You had these challenges, and how that affects your relationship and how that affects the team dynamics and all that. And so first of all, thank you guys for being vulnerable with that. That's first. But secondly, I'll say this, the question that I think we're all thinking, how do you lead the team, from a place of respect when you're the spouse? How do they respect me when you're the spouse? And so the formula that we use is in regards to credibility. When you're trying to be, let's say, Karen in this situation, from a respect standpoint, Eric as the son-in-law, zero respect at age 24, right?
Yes.
So you have to consistently, okay, so no wavering, you have to consistently show your character over a consistent amount of time, that your character's hard times, easy times, whatever it is, challenges, your character is consistently at that level. And then from a delivery standpoint, you're constantly creating confidence in your competence. A lot of C words there. Credibility equals confidence in your competence plus character consistently. So you did that well because individually you figured out how to work on you, whether it was the courses you went through, the coaching you got, the feedback you gave each other, but you guys were able to, and I love presenting with you guys. We got to do some teaching together back in the day, and I'm glad we're back as a team again. And I think that consistent message that you guys send is hard times, good times. How healthy can you be in your communication relationship with each other? Is that fair?
That's very fair. It's commitment. It's all the words that you can think of. I mean, it's perseverance. All of those adjectives, whatever you want to throw at them. But it's true, and we had fun doing it. We still are having fun doing it.
Yes.
And so we get a lot of enjoyment. It's a lot of nourishment for us, and no, we're very happy with where we are right now.
I
think go ahead, Karen.
We've been through the ups and downs, the good and the bad, and that's truly where you learn. You get so tired of the old saying, it's not okay, you're going to fall down. How many of us fall down and fail? It's what you do to get back up, and that is the truth.
How do you push through that? How do you persevere? That's a good word too, perseverance, and support each other through that. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for your time today and sharing.
Well, thank you. Our pleasure. It was fun kind of reminiscing a bit about this.
Good. It's good. So for those that are listening and watching, just, know that Karen and Gregg are here for you as coaches, especially for those husband and wife teams out there. I think that would be a great fit. So you guys can support them through that, coach them through it, and ask them, so what are you going to do about that?
That's exactly right.
All right, you guys, thank you so much.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thanks.
Bye.